So I've been teaching banjo for roughly 18 years, and I've been keeping this list of questions. And it's funny, you'd think there'd be a million different questions about the banjo, but they all kind of congeal into like a basic family of questions. And without a doubt, the most frequent question that I get asked about the banjo, other than why do I play the banjo, is how do you practice the banjo? How do you structure your practice time so that you get good? Well, it's a big topic. Today we are going to tackle it. Welcome to Banjo Quest. So this is a 3-part video. We're going to talk about what practice is, why we do it. The second is going to be a one-size-fits-all prescription for you to practice your instrument. It's going to be very simple, 3 steps to great practice sessions. That's in the middle of the video. Then the conclusion, stay for the end because that's going to modify the whole front part of this video. Let's get started. So practice, what is it? Well, I don't think of banjo as this discrete little thing. I don't practice the banjo. I have a banjo practice. It's kind of like yoga. It's kind of like meditation. Maybe it's like law. I have a practice where the banjo is part of my daily thing. It's part of my daily life. I don't think of it as something that is separate, that is an add-on that I do separately. It's like eating, breathing, sleeping. I have to do it to live. So I want to get that in your mindset is you want to have a banjo practice. You don't want to practice the banjo. That's going to help you establish this kind of lived in rhythm that's going to be really useful because practice to me, the most important thing that a practice does for a player is it gets them to get the instrument in their lap on a daily basis. So I want you to dispel the notion that every practice session has to get you better, that every practice session needs to be tuned and honed so that you are a better player when you finish the session. I don't believe that at all. I think that is an unreasonable expectation, and it's a really fast way to make you dislike playing the instrument. Instead, your practice needs to be to get that instrument in your lap every single day, regardless of quality, regardless of intention. Get the instrument into your lap every day. All right, now that you have a practice, let's talk about what you're going to practice. So the banjo is round. Surprise, one of the reasons we all love it. It's round, it's so beautiful. I think of it as a pie, a practice pie that has 3 giant slices that will get bigger the larger the pot gets. So I have 3 slices of this pie. These are my practice sections, how I divide every session of my practice and how I suggest you do this as well. The first section is fundamentals. The second section is tune work. The third section is sandbox. Now let's go through them one by one. All right, this first slice of the pie is probably the most important slice, and that is our fundamentals work. And this is where we delve down into the basement level of Clawhammer and examine all of the things that hold the entire structure of Clawhammer up. These are things like striking hand mechanics, double thumbing, drop thumbing, left hand, fretting hand mechanics, where we talk about the 3 families of fretting hand technique, which are pull-off, slides, and hammer-ons. We talk about scales, chords, knowledge of the fretboard, and we repeat these cycles of phrases that are called ostinatos. And we can stack these ostinatos to build the basic vocabulary that will support all of your clawhammer in whatever tune you're playing or whatever genre you decide to go in. Maybe it's not old time, maybe it's something more contemporary. These building blocks will serve you no matter which direction you head in. Now, I'm such a huge fan of the fundamentals that I'm about to lead another Banjo Bootcamp. It's my 12th Banjo Bootcamp, and that is in the link in the description below. That starts on April 1st for patrons. So if you want to check that out, it's a whole week dedicated to a custom-made fundamentals workshop sheet, 16 measures of grueling but entertaining and very fun ostinatos that are used to build you up from the ground and give you a deep knowledge of the fretboard as you explore these really cool techniques. And I lead that for 7 days. It's also a great way to show you how getting the instrument into your lap and playing the same patterns for a week can really level up your playing. So check that in the description below. I still work on my fundamentals every single day. In fact, if I do nothing else on the banjo, I pick up the banjo and run some double thumbs and some alternate string pull-off patterns. If I'm crunched for time, I still get that instrument in my lap and run those ostinatos at a variety of different tempos, practicing my deep listening skills. That's kind of like the way I start the day. It's like my mantra, my meditation for the day. All right, so 2, you've done all this fundamental warm-up, get your hands nice and limber, get your ears trained on what you want to be hearing when you play actual music. But then you need to shift modes, put that to the side, and think, all right, there's one reason I'm playing banjo, that's to play some music. So that's where I focus on a tune. So the tune section of my practice is where I tend to set aside my sort of really analytical brain, and I get into my sort of artsy, poetical brain, and I play the tune from a global perspective, listening, enjoying, and then sort of listening for when things are going well, listening for things that are going wrong that could be solved in my fundamentals workout the next time. So this tune section of the pie for me is much less about granular building blocks of Clawhammer and more about learning a tune, making a tune sound like music, and playing a tune with others. And the way I simulate that if I'm all by myself is I use a metronome to play a tune against, or even better, I find a reference recording that I'm really fond of and I play along with that reference recording. I'll often record myself playing along with a reference recording. That's a really often missed tool that you can use for this second slice of the pie that will give you a glimpse, this sort of eagle-eye view of what you sound like, and if it's video, what you look like when you're playing. The third slice of the pie is something interesting because I don't know how many people in the traditional space emphasize this, but for me it's been really important to my development as a player, and that is sandbox phase. So sandbox phase is when I just put the tune down, put the fundamentals down, and I just explore sounds on the banjo. And that can be everything from generating my own chord progression, writing a melody, or improvising over a drone, or vamping behind another recording, or just in general exploring the fretboard and exploring the right hand space, what I can do in that workspace from a striking hand perspective. This is not taught a lot. I don't see it mentioned in many books, but I think it's a hugely important part of ending the practice session on a big win and also stretching your banjo imagination muscles, your ability to generate ideas that are later going to become important for you as you begin to create variations, improvisations, or write your own material. So this sandbox phase for me is not only a carrot at the end of the stick, but it's a way for me to unfettered, with no judgment, just sort of explore what the instrument can do in my hands and to chase ideas that come up in my head that could be useful or interesting. Now, this can be scary for a beginner, and we'll get to that in a minute at the end of the video, but it's okay to feel a little uncomfortable or like, oh boy, my sandbox time is like playing in the mud. It sounds terrible. That's okay. That's where everything starts, right? The first time you picked up the banjo, you probably sucked. We all suck in the beginning. So when you start sandboxing the instrument, it's gonna sound probably pretty crappy in the beginning. That's okay. You just keep going at it. May even make you feel uncomfortable. It may even make you feel like, ooh, I'm not doing anything interesting in the sandbox phase. It's okay. You just have it as part of your three-pronged practice, and you just do it every time. Every time you pick up the banjo, every single time you go through your slices. Now, let's modify this. All right, so here's how to make this even more interesting and more useful depending on where you are in your banjo journey. So obviously, the cool thing about this 3 pie piece approach is that this could be a 5-minute practice session, right? 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Or if you're a beginner, maybe it's 4 minutes fundamentals, 30 seconds tune, 30 seconds sandbox. Like you can change the size of these pie pieces depending on where you are on the instrument. So here's what I would ask you to do to modify this 3-pie piece method of practicing the banjo to make it fit into what you want. And that is, what are your goals? When you close your eyes at night and drift off into that dreamy banjo-scape, I'll see you there, by the way. You drift off into the banjo verse and you imagine yourself doing something on the instrument that is cool. What is that thing? Is it playing for your family? Is it getting your band on stage for the first time? Is it a studio booking that you've booked? You're getting ready? Is it you teaching a workshop for Clawhammer Banjo locally, globally, online? Or is it for you just playing for your dog on the porch, playing for your own enjoyment with a nice cold beverage? That's as interesting and as important as all these other things that I just named. So let your goals help you modify how you shape your pie. If you're a beginner with goals of playing on the porch for your own enjoyment, you may want to wait some fundamental work, heavy tune work to build some repertoire, and have a little bit of sandbox play, because you just want to keep it simple. You just want to kick back on the porch and keep it really easy. Maybe your goals are different. Maybe you have some studio work coming up. Your band's booked studio time. You're working on your first album. That's a whole different way to approach the pie. That, for me, is going to be very quick, brief warm-up with some fundamentals. Get limber, get ready, run some scales, run some quick alternate string pull-off patterns, get things timed and synchronized. Then boom, my major focus is going to be what are the tunes we're recording that day or in a week. Dust off all those tunes and then save a little bit of time at the end. And that sandbox time may end up being a little more focused. Maybe you're like, yeah, we're playing these tunes in the studio. That one, I've got a lead part in. We're doing a little arranging. That's my sandbox time. I'm going to work on the lead part of that tune that's the centerpiece of the album. And I just want to generate some ideas free of all the other trappings of the other two slices of my practice. Or maybe you're going to a jam and you're having a hard time keeping up with the speed of that jam. I would take that student and I would say, yo, let's step back from the tunes for a bit. Let's build your fundamentals up so that you can compete, so you can run these tunes as fast as is appearing in this jam. So we've got to work on some building blocks. We got to work on that right hand because your right hand needs more efficiency. We want to do your alternate string pull-off so you can offload some energy to the fretting hand, and that's going to allow you to reinterpret some of the tunes you're doing so that you don't have to work so hard to keep up with the jam. So you see how that goal of playing in the jam is going to modify how you approach these three pieces of the pie. And there are an infinite variety of ways to modify that pie. So just think of what is the goal? What do you want out of the instrument? And then let that inform how you shape and break up your 3-part practice session. All right, that's it. There's a lot more to talk about when it comes to practicing an instrument, but this is my overview. This is what I would give to anybody as a way to frame out how they're approaching the instrument. You want to knock down barriers. You want to get the instrument in your hands every day. And when you practice, you divide it into simple 3s: fundamentals, tunes, sandbox, and then let your goals modify that trifecta of clawhammer practice. All right. I hope I see you in the boot camp coming up April 1st. I'm super excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. The boot camp is called The Dreamer. We're going to make some dreams in this boot camp. It's going to be a blast. I cannot wait. I'll see you next time on Banjo Quest. It's the building block of the pie. Maybe we can think of the foundation as the crust, the bottom layer of that pie. Then you have the filling. Then you have the crust on top. I don't know what I'm talking. No. No, that's not good. That's not good work. You got to stop talking about pie.